there, ref. That's he got the ball. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boys, Dave and Jack. And to be honest with you, I'd love to be sitting here going breaking news, Spurs linked with this guy, Spurs approaching and putting in bids for this guy and that guy and everything else, and the improvements that we were supposed to undertake this summer. However, it's been absolutely dead for well over a week now. Really, really boring in terms of Tottenham news, Tottenham content. It's getting that bad. We've seen End on Belly articles this week. You know, that's how bad it's getting. You know, former Tottenham player does this. It's absolutely disgusting. So we thought, rather than just sit there and try and, put out something, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. We said, look, I'm just going to sit here today, vibe out with you guys for an hour or so, and just see how you guys are feeling out there around Tottenham Hotspur right now, because it's very, very quiet. Very, very quiet. So it's deader than a funeral at the minute. Anyway, Jack, how are you this evening?
I'm doing okay. I feel the same as you. It was nice to have a bit of a break after that long, very arduous season. But once Thomas Frank was hired, I was looking forward to things, kind of moving quickly after that. And it's actually been the opposite. It's been well dead, it feels like, with Tottenham Hotspur. Felt like we've already been off the back foot by hiring Frank, in my opinion, a bit late already into the summer window. And then once we did get him in charge, like I brought up just now, I felt like, it was then time to get a move on to try to catch up with some other clubs who already have been making plans, have been making moves. Even Arsenal fans were complaining a lot, with their sort of lack of movement thus far in the window. And, now it feels like we're starting to fall behind them even. It feels like Spurs are kind of one of the slowest moving clubs in the Premier League this season. We're, of course, after Mohamed Kudus, but now we're being told by West Ham that they really don't want to sell to us if they can avoid it. Seems like
honestly, I bagged my missus quicker than what we bagged Kudus. It's a joke.
It seems like West Ham, have done what a lot of Spurs fans would have predicted, which is be difficult, not make it easy for us, not, just accept the initial opening bids. In fact, they're trying to sell the Kudus to looks like almost anybody else but Tottenham Hotspur. And if Kudus was going to be the guy that we were going to even put our faith into or put our concentration towards as a summer big window signing, you would think that they would have expected it to go down this way with West Ham, but they're still flirting around with the same bid with just slightly different add-ons and slightly different structures of payment, which is just typical Tottenham Hotspur summer window business. And it's just, I don't know. I'm not normally one to get super bored and frustrated by Tottenham transfer windows, but this one is starting to, I don't want to speak too soon, but it's starting to take the cake, really. It's starting to be one of the more just snooze fest, type of transfer windows. I mean, things need to happen. They need to get players out the door. They need to get players in the door. We have a Champions League season that is well ahead. We have the Super Cup against PSG in almost a month's time at this point. We have guys that are already coming in for the preseason training and everything like that, and there are no real new signings, to embed into the Thomas Frank system. It just feels like Spurs are in a very, very impressive way, and I mean that sarcastically, starting off on the back foot more than I've seen them before. It feels almost like the Nuno Espirito Santo kind of summer.
Do you know what that though, Jack? For me, like when I sort of, I'm not going to lie, I sort of expected this to happen. My opinions on it, a couple of weeks back, if not a bit longer. I sort of said, look, when we opted to change manager and bring in someone like Thomas Frank, I sort of expected this window to happen. Everybody told me, Dave, conspiracy, go and dip your head in some cold water, wake up, stuff like that. And now everyone's starting to press the panic alarm. It's not good enough, and you're already throwing Thomas Frank under the bus to a large degree. Yeah. It's preseason. Players are already back for preseason testing. We should already have a couple of signings in the door ready to go, to hit the ground running, to integrate into Frank's system, to give them the best chance. Now, look, if it's anything like under Postecoglou where we sign late, well, then, like you see what happened to Solanke, struggled to really get going for large parts of that season because he didn't have the proper preseason or the embedded into the squad, along with the likes of Wilderson and Odegaard, who arrived just before the season as well. You're not giving these guys the best chance to hit the ground running, actually make that impact that you're hoping your signings are going to make. So for me, I think it's an absolute joke that we haven't moved, but to a large degree, I expected it. I can understand being slow on the outgoings, actually, Jack, because I can understand Thomas Frank will want to come in, assess what he's got. Maybe some players might be better than what he originally thought, or some players may be worse than what he originally thought. And he, so I can understand he wanting to get to see the likes of Solomon, some of the players out on loan, and being slow on the outgoings. But when he took this job and in the interview, there would have been one or two non-negotiables, but he said, we have to get on this straight away and get in the door. And we're even slacking on that. So for me, nowhere near good enough. But look, we'll take a couple of comments here from the comment section and then we'll bring on the guest and we'll have a conversation with them. Good evening, Mr. Paul Brown. How are you keeping? Good evening, Dave and Jack. Hopefully all is well. Good to see you, my man. Rhino renewing his membership so we can come on and torture myself and Jack for another hour today. He's already been torturing us in the background about giving Thomas Frank longer than Ange Postecoglou. We've also got football 1, 2, 3 in the house. Great to see you. We've got Shem Tam morning, afternoon. Jack and Dave, hope you're both well. Shem, I was actually thinking about you today while I was on the treadmill in the gym. We're going to have to come up with a new match day sort of takeaway because I can't be eating kebabs at the rate I was. So we're going to have to come up with something a little bit different. So I'm open to suggestions, Shem. What are we going to get now when we win games of football? We've got Georgie Hill. He says, big up, lads. Hope you're keeping well. I find it hard to believe that when Frank was negotiating for a contract, saw what we did last year and didn't identify at least one player to bring in straight away. Absolutely spot on. I could not agree more with that, Georgie Hill. It's a travesty. Kilkenny Spurs, well, lads, hope you're both well as per the topic. Yes, I do reckon Thomas Frank wants to have a look at them first. Big up Kilkenny Spurs. You lost to Tipperary yesterday, by the way, in the hurling. I'd say that was a sour point. Were you up at Croker? Do let me know. My beloved county are back up in Croker for the football final next week. Cannot wait. Touchland Cup. David Clark says, so Levy will only pay the kudos add-ons if Spurs win the Premier League or the Champions League. What more proof do you need? This man is a fraud. West Ham owners are laughing at us. Do you know what annoys me about this? You sort of see other clubs, right, with their top targets. They sort of just go in, no nonsense, get the deal done. But the reason why we leave our targets open for them to go elsewhere, like Willian all them years ago and stuff like that, is just because we take too long. We piss about trying to negotiate and everything else. I can understand that if you're buying a player for a squad player or a youngster or something like that, but not your main target. Your main target has got to be a part of you that's willing to maybe go a little bit above and beyond than what you initially thought and actually going seriously rather than always going so far below the valuation. Big up, Davy Clark. We got Drew Zill in the house. Big up, Drew. Great to see you, buddy. Hopefully you're keeping well.
Big up, Drew.
We've also got DB in the house. Big up, DB. Good to see you. Best lawnmower, lawn man in the business. How's the lawn looking? We've got Trinidad evening all. The Yid Army ordered the black away kit today. Some good news at least. Whilst the club still fast around again. Come on, you Spurs. Realistic, we should be putting a hold on buying all merchandise until they start bringing in players. But the black one, they know what they're doing. The black one's too good to resist, right? People want to get it before it sells, flies off the shelf. DB says, Dave, 100% Dave and Jack, so much garbage. Spurs selling nonsense. Look.
I wouldn't even know what garbage to spin at the moment. It's that dead, DB. You know, like we have like apps, not even morsels to work with, not even crumbs to work with. Feels like people, if they are putting stuff out there, they're practically inventing crumbs. You know, there's just nothing out there at all that we can talk about other than just some of the questions that we've come up with, you know, around the frustrations, you know, of this window. Dave has actually done, I think Dave's pulled off a blinder by coming up with questions for the fan show tonight and maybe some that we'll use for a panel show tomorrow. I'll be surprised if we even get through the whole panel show tomorrow, DB. It's just that dead out there. But that's where we actually, you know, we really have to use the most of our brain cells in these scenarios. But big up, DB. I feel the same way.
Big up, DB. Good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. Big up, Shawnee Maddox. Just sign a player, Levy. It's not hard. Fair point. It's not hard. Well, it is when it's Daniel Levy. David Hall says, evening all, just getting to the point of not really caring about this club. Look, I'm never, ever going to get to that point. It tests me, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you sit there and you go, what is the point? But they'll find a way to hook you back in, Davey. They always do. Big up, Tottenham Tom. Great to see you evening all. Hopefully you're keeping well. MJ Marquez, Eugene, who's in the background as well. Good to see. He's probably at boiling point right now. We've got Jerome in the back end as well. We've got Ross Parsons. Spurs always sign players late. Levy will try to lowball. We'll laughably low bid for weeks. Absolutely spot on. Big up Futures Bright. Futures Lily White. Come on, you Spurs. Evening, boys. I presume you're out and about in the taxi, my man. Good to see you. We've got Alpesh to Patel. Good evening, Dave and Jack. Where's the first actual top signing? I mean, look, we're still waiting. Could probably do bingo. Do you know what? We could probably ring Paul, get him involved, and let's run a bingo session at this point. AK Shakes, good to see you. Up for you, keeping well. Ginola, great to see you. Frank knows who he wants to and doesn't want to for the squad, apart from the kids that were on loan. He needs to look at them. Yeah, that's absolutely fair point. Fair. Me and Jack were speaking about that today. AK Shakes, great to see you. Spurs won, good to see you. RHT, we'll come back to you now in 1 second. Yogi Bear, great to see you. Ugly Fish. We've got Nirajan Pandit. DB said that Levy thinks he can win. I don't know. Yeah, well, Levy does think he can win it with youngsters. That's the truth. Chen Mehmet, good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. Grizzly, hopefully you're keeping well. He says, hi, how is the new manager expected to know who he wanted, knew he doesn't? No, look, he's been around the block. He would have a fair idea who's of use to what he wants to do at Tottenham and who's not walking in there. But to be fair, it's always good just to have a look and assess and just make sure that you're right on your feelings on that. You're absolutely spot on. Chen Mehmet says, more like Tottenham are just doing a Tottenham in the transfer market. Why on earth do people think I'm going to be any other way with those lot in charge? That's absolutely fair. Do you know what? It's just the hope that kills you, man. You want to give them the benefit of doubt and hopefully they start getting things going in the right direction, but they never do. I am the storm approaching. Says Levy isn't either trolling or completely delusional. We just finished 17. He thinks anyone is entertaining an add-on winning the honestly it's ridiculous if that's true. Sonny J, yes, big man, I've seen your channel before and like your opinions, man. Hope this picks up. Come on, you Spurs. Don't you think we need a left back as cover as a doggy? Not
Totally.
last season, Robinson plus Asensio is available. Good to see you, Sonny J. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much for tuning in and give us a chance. Look, right now, I'll be honest, the content is slow because there's not a lot happening. We don't force it over here if there's nothing happening. So just bear with us, but, give us a chance heading into the season and hopefully you enjoy yourself around here. But look, left back is something me and Jack wanted last summer, another full back in the door because Adogi got injured. It caused us real problems. Emerson got sold off the back and not being able to play left back. Skip got sold off the back and not being able to play left back. And we just couldn't fix that hole. And he had surgery. He was late back from preseason. And we go, do you know what? Just go out there and do the exact same as you did again last season without any actual backup or cover. Absolutely ridiculous. And then, last season, it took him a while to get going and stuff like that. Picked up a bit of an injury, at some point during the season as well. And again, we paid the price for it. Well, not really, actually. Jed Spence, to be fair, done a decent job. But we still need another left-footed player for left back because I'd love to see Jed Spence push Pedro Porro. And I think, you could take one out, put the other one in over on the right-hand side. You need that same option on the left-hand side. Look, we want to go and compete. One thing me and Jack have always maintained, you need to avail of that 25-man squad and has it as good as you can have it because you're going to be playing 50-odd, 60-odd games a season if your ambition is trophy. So you got to fill it out with quality, my man. Big yourself up. Make sure we're not missing anyone. Wembley 1, great to see you, Montana Spurs. So I really now is the Dr. Even and Mini Me show running everything. We are so doomed if that is the case. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. Harmless Potato, great to see you. Montana Spurs, just seen Sheshan Disanyaki has left the Tavistock group for personal reasons, and now Levy's son is the joint head of a 6 billion group. There you are. That's the board level changes we were expecting, eh? Big up Spurs diehards. Congratulations on your award from Spurs Kings TV. Big yourselves up. We've also got Marcelo in the house. Big up, Marcelo. Teams are announcing their third signing while we're announcing our coaching staff. Honestly, Marcelo, teams were announcing signings and their marquee signings, massive improvements, while we were pissing about deciding whether we wanted to bring Thomas Frank in and deciding whether we wanted to let him bring in some of his coaching staff. We're a disgrace. I said it once with Ange Postecoglou, we were at a point where everybody and their dog knew we needed 4 or 5 quality signings. It was non-negotiable, and they would have been hammered if they didn't do it. We bring in Frank, development guy, coach. All of a sudden, they can spin the same shit they tried to spin on Postecoglou last summer. It's disgusting. Big up, Marcelo. Good to see you.
We're on slow motion mode at the minute. This summer window, everything's being done in slow
motion. With Tottenham at this moment in time, let alone slow motion mode. Anyway, RST says, here's a theory I have. Can I get both of your thoughts, especially Dave's? I think that Kudos only wants us. Story is a ploy, but not sure from who. I think basically Jackie's saying could be an agent-led thing. Look, it is well known that agents put stuff out there to try and get better deals for their clients elsewhere and stuff like that. It is well known. Do you think that's the case, or do you think genuinely, this kid does want Tottenham?
I will say this. Last summer, I do feel like a lot of the ITKs did get exposed to an extent, Artist T, because there were so many big name signings that we were linked with.
Sorry, Jack. He wants me to follow up with the second one.
Yeah.
He says if it's Kudos that started it, he wants other clubs to move faster. And if it's us, it's to push other clubs away. I don't think we're getting him.
I think, so following up by saying it could be agent-led or sort of agent-created to some degree. I do feel like last summer there was a lot of ITKs that got exposed for a lot of transfer rumors that didn't end up actually manifesting themselves. And then all of a sudden, the players that we did sign, you didn't see any rumors of those actually happening until 48 hours before they were basically through the door, which isn't really, any indication that they were actually on the ball or on the scent of maybe predicting something
Yeah.
happening. I do feel like this summer, maybe it's so dead that it could be the case. This is only putting on a conspiracy theory hat, to support you here, Artist T. But it could be so dead this transfer window that maybe they are just kind of like putting a link out there. They're putting a player's name out there just to appease the fan base or appease the Spurs media to some degree, because it goes not even for just Spurs channels, Spurs fans. It also works that way with like Talk Sport. They have a bunch of clubs they want to talk about. What are Spurs, doing this summer? What's this club doing this summer? And if there's nothing literally to work with, sometimes it's the case that you might just kind of put something out there, in the void or just in the wind,
Yeah.
for people to chew on and for people to talk about. I'm not saying that is the case with Kudus. There is probably something to say that Kudus, I think before he went to West Ham, we were pretty heavily linked with the guy. This is before, Johan Lange was at the club. I think it was Fabio Paratici might have been, the director of football then. And I think Spurs were kind of competing with West Ham to a degree to sign him. So it wouldn't surprise me that Kudus maybe does want to sign for Spurs if, he was linked with us in the past, and things like that when he was at Ajax. But listen, man, at this minute in time, I'm not going to claim anything being certain or anything being the case. It could well be the case that it's so dead at the minute that they are just trying to put links out there and, sort of, players out there just to get the clicks that they at the end of the day they need. And that's what Dave and I've been kind of talking about. I mean, it's often the case that it's so just dead news wise that in a way the journalists and the ITKs, they have to just put stuff out there just to almost appease their own people, in terms of the clicks and
Yeah.
whatnot. It's a sad case, but it could be. It could be.
Look,
I'm not
I
saying
think,
one or the other. I'm just sort of stating it how it is and how it was last summer.
yeah, no, 100%. Look, what I'm trying to work out is if it's Tottenham's actual number one target, or is this an opportunity that Tottenham think they can seize upon? And the reason why I say that is because I know he's got a release clause of 80 or 85 million euros. But I think West Ham want some PSR room, and that's why I think they're considering cashing in on Kudos. And I think there's rumor to believe they're willing to do it for around 60, 65 million. But Tottenham will come in with lowball them, try to put incentives and add-ons and put basically unachievable things. If we win the Premier League and the Club World Championship, we'll give you an extra 10 million of bonuses. Well, we're never winning either. So you know what I mean? If you're West Ham, why would you accept that knowing it's never ever going to come? So we're probably pissing about and delaying it. And I think we've got a price in mind that we want to play. And if West Ham aren't willing to play a ball, which they're not, because they're going to want their price to be able to have the PSR room, to be able to go and do stuff for Graham Potter. So, I mean, we're just pissing about. And look, it could very well get to the point where West Ham just turn around, right, fuck you. Kudos turns around and goes, right, well, preseason's ticking along. I ain't waiting for Tottenham any longer. F you too. I'm going here or I'm going there. So, look, it's really hard to know. It's really hard to know, with this Kudos thing. I think there's genuine interest there from Tottenham. It would be stupid if there wasn't. But I do think it's more out of trying to take advantage of a situation rather than him being our number one pursuit, which very well means this could collapse tomorrow or at any moment, to be honest with you, RSD. All these little bits of stuff that come out over the weekend, the tiny little bits of progression and all that bollocks, don't read into it. That's why we're not sitting here. You don't see us do an update over the weekend because, to be honest with you, it's just the same yarn spun a different way. That's all it is. Not interested in it. But big up, Artist T. Really appreciate the support, my man. Let us know your thoughts. And we've got Alan Leslie, member for 13 months. Even all what have the data team been doing? Well, we did get in Kota Takai. So to be fair, you would like to think he's off that data-led model. But apart from that, not a lot, to be quite honest with you. And look, Alan Leslie, the thing is, we shouldn't be using the data-led model to go and sign our marquee players. There has to be an understanding. We need marquee players that you shouldn't be signing off a data-led model. You should be going out, identifying them, boom, bring them in. The data-led model is for what Brighton and Brentford use it for, which is to find undervalued players in the market and develop them and sell them on for huge profit. So with that data-led model, it's okay to have that combined with bringing in your ready-made players. And if you don't do that, you get the shit that we were served up last year when you're in multiple competitions. And big up Simon Cohen, great to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. Good to see you're still alive and kicking, my man. But look, let's crack on. We got plenty of guests in the background. Let's bring them on. Today we are going to talk about whatever people want, really. But I've also got questions here where it's, what player you're most looking forward to seeing with preseason now that the players are back. Is there any players that you think can have a turnaround like Jedi sensational last season under Ange Postecoglou? And is there any player that you would consider cashing in on after preseason if they don't impress? Along with, are you worried about Tottenham's inactivity in the transfer market? And then an interesting one across about Josh Keeley and Kinski as well, guys. With Josh Keeley, apparently they want to give him a new contract and farm him back out on loan. But he's the same age as Kinski. And I know Jack wasn't over enamored with Kinski's efforts when he stepped in goal. So question, should we look at Keeley preseason before determining if he's worse or better than Anthony Kinski and what's the other guy's name? Brandon Austin. Should he get the opportunity? Because I'd argue it's not like any of them are out and out number two. So if that's the case, why not give them the opportunity? But look, let's bring on the people. Let's bring on the fans. Let's hear what they have to say. We've got Rhino in the house. We've got Rain. We've got Eugene. And we've got Jerome. So I'm expecting it to probably be a little bit spicy. People with a lot to say. So, guys, I mean, where do you want to kick it off? Well, since me and Jack were talking about the Kudos situation, anyone want to have their say on that before we move on rather than actually come back to it later on and bore people to death?
Well, I just wanted to start off by saying RIP to Jota and his brother. Yeah, it was a disaster what happened. That should never happen to anybody at that age, but it is what it is, and we have to just move on. So, but yeah, so with Kudos, it's going to happen. It's just when's it going to happen? To be honest, it's going to happen. It's just when.
Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? I mean, I'll put in my tuppence. It reminds me very much of Championship Manager in like 1997 or 1998. It's like, 5 million reject, 5,100,000 reject, 5,100,050 reject, 5,100,000. 250 reject. This isn't the way. This isn't the way that grown-ups do business and negotiations. You don't go down to the car lot to buy a car, and they say, "Well, it's 20 grand," and you go, "I'll give you 11," and they go, "No, it's 20 grand," and you go, "I'll give you 11 and a half." This is not the way that grown-up. By 12 and a half. They're telling you, look, go away and come back when you want to do a proper business with me. And this is why we have a bloody Tottenham tax. It's because it's because we absolutely this we're going to give you 50 million. This is what's being rumored, right? We're going to give you 50 million. No. We want way more than that. Okay, we'll give you 50 million. Plus 5. No, that's not enough. Okay, we'll give you 50 million plus 12 if we win the Premier League and Champions League. And like the laughing that must have come from the London Stadium, if that really was the offer, the hilarity must have been. You could probably have heard it from our stadium. You probably heard it from Lily White House because it's absolutely ridiculous. This is not the way you do business.
No, I don't believe that because I'm hearing totally different things, right? And from what I'm hearing is West Ham fans are actually angry that he's going to be coming to us.
No, that's a completely separate thing, right?
It's a completely separate thing. It doesn't really matter what the West Ham fans think. The thing is, we are just wasting our time. We're saying we're giving you 12 million add-ons if we win the Premier League and the Champions League, which is absolutely ridiculous. If the valuation is 60 million, 65 million, we put our mouth where it is and we put the 60 million and say, here we go, take that or leave it. That should be simple as that. We don't go 50 million and 12 million add-ons if we win the Premier League and some bullshit like Champions League. This is absolutely ridiculous. As a 68 million and we paid in 3 installments. What do? We don't do anything. We leave it to Arsenal to go and do something. Absolutely ridiculous club. And seriously, we're not giving any excuses right now. This is an absolute disaster of a summer already. How many days left now? Less than 60 days. What are we doing? Absolutely nothing. We're wasting our time on Kudus and we're leaving all other positions open. There's nothing we can do about it. It's going to be the same thing. Like Jack just said it feels like a Nuno summer. Okay? It feels exactly like a Nuno summer. Because again, we make the same mistake. Because the Frank appointment is the same mistake as for we're making the same goddamn mistake. The reason
have to
why I'm
ask a
saying we're
question.
making the same mistake, just look, no, just hear me off. The same reason I'm saying we're making the same mistake was a couple of years ago, I heard somebody say, Thomas Frank is a perfect fit for Tottenham. You know what? When we were having Conte on the things were not going really well. I lost my head when I heard the guy saying Thomas Frank is a perfect fit for Tottenham because Tottenham doesn't do much. They don't do anything. That's why a coach like Thomas Frank is perfect for Tottenham. I lost my head when I heard this. I was thinking this guy is talking absolute nonsense. But here we go, years down the road, and here we are. Frank is now the guy. But
I have to
I'm not
ask
going
the
to say
question.
who.
I have to ask the question, though. I have to ask the question, Jerome, because
The truth hurts, though, doesn't it, mate? That's the problem. The problem is that guy was speaking the truth. Conte and Jose, they were not, and I'm very clear where I land. They were not Daniel Levy, Tottenham Hotspur managers. They weren't. Whereas Thomas Frank absolutely is.
Jerome,
Yeah,
Billy
because
wants
we
to
won't
know
do
why
anything.
Billy wants to know why you're being so negative. He's telling you to chill out, Jerome.
Why do I need to chill out? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's every summer, the same bloody thing.
Hey,
We don't
Jerome.
do anything. We're just wasting our time. It's like we went through already 3 weeks of the whole summer doing nothing. And now you're telling me to chill out. Chill out for what? Chill out for what? It's going to be the same goddamn thing like we did for every single summer. We do nothing. There's inactivity happening while the other teams are already buying market players, bringing players that are like, oh, let's not go too far. Let's look at the Barca down the road. Gyökeres is coming. Zubimendi is already there. Oh, and maybe they get Eze. Oh, Rhino, what happened? Are you sure you were sure we're getting Eze? What happened to that?
Yeah,
He might
I'm
be
telling
going to
you what's
Arsenal now.
happening.
We're not going to waste their time. We're not going to waste time like us. If their men are there, we're going to get him.
No, stop there for a second, right? Because
What?
until that deal's done with Arsenal, we can still go out and get Eze. So
Oh yes, of course we will. Of course we will. Of course we will. We will get Eze. After all the talk of nonsense of getting Eze, well, what happened? Cool off. Nothing. Nothing. No talks about LA. It's the same thing that's gonna happen with Trossard. We wasted our time with Trossard, and look what will happen. Arsenal come in, swoop in, get the guy, gone.
Look, I actually think personally, I think Jerome's got a fair point. I understand the fact that, we're off the back of winning Europa League and stuff. But football moves very, very quickly, and you always get punished for what you don't do in the transfer market. And we just historically get punished for what we don't do. We never sort of, fill out that squad. And I think regardless whether we had a change of manager or not, I think people have to understand we need signings in the door to be able to compete. We're taking a step up in European competition next year. There's a good chance we're going to be played off the park like we were in the Carabao Cup semi-final if we don't. That was a warning sign of what's to come if you don't drag the squad to that level. But look, let's bring in Eugene because AK Shakes doesn't understand it. He says, lads, calm down. We've won a trophy. Why are we all so angry, Eugene?
Look, Jerome, and I guess everybody, look, I'm a psychic. I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. And I'm going to channel my Giorgio Chiellini. This is the history of Tottenham. This is what we do. We sign one big player, one starter per summer window. So what's going to happen is we're going to get Kudus over the line and maybe in a month or so after the training camp starts. So he doesn't have enough time to play with the first team. We're going to sell Romero at the very end of the window, trying to squeeze every penny out of Atletico. We're not going to bring in a center back, the replacement. I mean, we've seen this before for years and years and years. So I'm not sure why anybody is surprised. Dave, as you said, when Frank came in, nothing against him, but it was a signal by the club about how we're going to do business. It's a signal that, there is a certain way that will go forward with younger signings. So you see Takai, you see Tell. So again, frustrating. I'm not surprised. Again, we're going to get Kudus over the line, and that's going to be our one signing for the summer. Kuti is going to leave. and that's it. So again,
Yeah, well,
it's our history. That's how we do
that's
business, unfortunately.
that's the thing, Eugene. I'm happy for all the thing like this is how we do business. But shut the hell up, Levy. Don't come on,
Oh,
don't come on TV. Don't go and say he wants to compete for the league and Champions League.
well,
Shut
that's
the hell up if you're not going to do anything about it. If it's the same way after we won a European trophy, it's the same way you're going to process, the same way we're going to do things every summer. We see the same way because
yeah.
there's no point. There's
No,
no
you
point.
don't
There's no point of
bring
opening
in.
your mouth and saying you're going to compete for the league.
Oh, for sure. Thomas Frank resigning Ben Davis, Tell, and Takai. I mean, yeah, that's silly. So anybody who's listening to the PR and getting excited about challenging for the league, this and that, that's nonsense. I mean, that's just
No, no.
Levy
Eugene,
talking.
I want to ask you a question now, mate. Then, because what you have just said is a load of rubbish, right?
I don't think it
So
is.
I'm going to come back with you. I'm going to come at you now. Well, not you personally, but at your opinion, as hard as I can. Who have we signed as a one big signing every single season then in the transfer
That's what Eugene's
market? I want you
complaining
to
about,
name
though.
five.
Yeah,
I want
so
you to
last
name
I
five.
don't think you understood his point.
Solanke last
That's
summer.
what
Solanke was
complaining about.
one starter. Before that, it was, I think, Van der Ven, right?
Van der Ven,
Everybody
yeah.
else was unknown. Before that, Romero. Every summer, we bring in one player, and that's it.
Yeah.
They're not
So
big
if you're thinking
signings,
we're
though,
getting Kudus and
Eugene.
Eze, there is no way it's going to happen. I'm guaranteeing there is no way we're going to
Eugene,
bring in two big players.
Eugene, before Romero and Van der Ven came in, they were not big signings.
They were starters.
They were
No,
not
Romero.
big
What do you mean?
signings.
Romero
They were
wasn't
unknown for us in the
Romero,
Premier League.
a lot
was
of
a
people
Serie A
were excited about Romero when we
defender of the
signed him.
season.
He was a big player, yeah.
Van der Ven, he was unknown, but he came in as a starter for 45 million, which is a big amount of money. So that was
But then he wasn't a
a
big signing. So
signing.
I've debunked your theory already there. There you go. So where you say that Van der Ven, yeah, right, was a big signing, he wasn't because no one knew about him.
But he was a
Just
starter
because
for 45 million.
what
That's
you
what I'm saying.
pass as a big signing then, because quite clearly, I don't get this theory, right, where people say, oh, what is it? Because it's a certain amount of money that he's a big signing. So if that's the case, yeah, right, Eugene, you think that Dominic Solanke is a big signing, and that you think
65 million says he's a big signing.
Ryan, I'm not sure that's what Eugene's
When I
trying
say
to
big,
say.
I'm not saying a superstar. I'm saying a starter, right? A player who's going to be in the starting 11, and the money spent. That's what I mean. Obviously, we're not going to
Is this
sign
what you mean here,
Rodrigo.
Eugene? What Montana Spurs says, he's right. Richie, then Matters, and Solanke, now Kudos. We'll overpay for good players because they'll accept our low wages, then bring on the kids. And that's what you're saying. Like they'll never ever
Madison was a
push
big
the ball
signing.
out.
Yep.
Yeah.
But traditionally, in my head, and I could go and do the analysis of it, but traditionally, in the first summer window for a manager, we generally spend money. We generally spend money doing turnover, which is why we're always a project club, because we get a new manager every 2 years. So we've got so much turnover. And actually, in the Madders summer, we got Van der Ven, yet we also got Johnson. So we spent a lot of money that summer churning over the club, churning over the squad. When Postecoglou landed, I would say our biggest problem right now is that we can't get players out the door. I think the market. Apart from Liverpool, Chelsea are just doing Chelsea stuff. Man City have just Liverpool and Man City have done a bit of creaming off the top. With a few little transfers moving, but that middle ground, the 80 to 90% in the middle. You got the 5 to 10 at the top, and you got the 5 to 10 at the bottom, and that 80% in the middle, none of it's moving. No one in that 80% range of clubs are doing any business, and that's why I think that's a big reason why West Ham are absolutely sticking to their, let's face it, relatively crazy 60 odd million price tag for Kudus, who's done nothing really I think he's a cracking player. I love him, but he hasn't really done massive. He hasn't set the world alight. He hasn't even had a Solanke season to hang his hat on. And yet they're pricing him at a very, very high price. And why are they doing that? Because there's no evidence of what the actual price of a player is in the 2025 summer, because nobody's buying and nobody's selling. It's a bit of which is why it's so stagnant, right? It's crazy.
I mean, the market is set by Cunha and Bassuma. We know, right? Like a player of that. Obviously, he didn't have a good season last season, but we all know what he can do. So profile-wise, he goes for a similar amount as Mbeumo and Cunha. So the market has, I think, has been set. So again, for us, it'd be a good signing. Is he like a world beater? No. Does he improve us? He gives us exactly what we need. Somebody who can take his player on, opposite of Johnson. But again, I feel like, and I think either you or somebody else said it, the outgoing is an issue. I feel like Son staying is a huge issue for us, both money-wise and the roster.
Do you think that stops us from making an extra marquee signing? No, that's
right, exactly. And Richie doesn't want to leave, and that's an issue for us as well. It just, and with the homegrown quota as well, it's limited in what we can do. So again, I mean, I would love Kudus and Eze, but I don't think Eze is going to come in, given that Madison is there. So yeah, if Sonny is staying and Richie is staying, that's an issue. Hopefully Bassuma can leave. At least that's one player who when it's gone will go, but that's an issue.
This is the problem though, Eugene. Like Son staying and Richarlison staying. I'm okay with that. That still shouldn't stop us going into the market and bringing in more players. Like if the expectation from the fan base and from the board, and that's what they hire and fire every manager on, is to compete across 4 trophies and how they get on across it. You've got to be able to give them the squad. Like we should be bringing in players. It's okay to say to someone like Udebar, out you go on loan for a year. You're not ready for the step up in quality that we need this year to be able to go and do it. Go and develop. But
it's a homegrown issue, right? It's a homegrown issue for the Champions League. That's why we're going to get Kyle Walker-Peters or Sirkin, right? We need the homegrown players. And Ben Davis, I mean, that's another head scratcher. You look at Tell, Davis, Son Charlson. Those are all non-homegrown, spots being taken up. So
this is why we're not going to buy any players, because they're listing out our squad. They're looking at who they need to get out as well as who they're gonna get in. And I think if we buy another player, that's another problem. That's adding to the problem.
Well, it's only a Tottenham problem, though, Ray. United don't care about that. Chelsea don't care about that. City don't care about that. They worry about their outgoings once they've got their business done. And they're the teams that we're trying to compete with. This is a Tottenham problem that we have fans have been betting to residing because of how the club is run. We can't keep doing that.
100%.
At some point, we got to say, no, I don't give a fuck. Go and get the fucking players in. No pissing about.
Dave, 20 years of consistent. I really like to deal with consistent behaviour. I look at people, and I don't try to bracket them as to how I want them or how I would behave or how I expect them to behave. I bracket them as to how I've seen them behave over a consistent period of time. I manage people. I do this all the time. And Levy is not going to get people in if it stops his leverage to get people out. If he thinks it's going to make other people think he's desperate to be getting rid of a Solomon, a Bassuma, because we can't list them, then he won't get a player in. He will wait to get the player out. Levy has been. There's a lot of anxiety, right? Involved with being the chairman of a club for 20 years. I go back to the 2001 problem where a player left and absolutely shafted us and shafted Levy, and I don't think he's ever forgotten that. But we've had a lot of problems where we've had a bloated squad and we've had to loan out an Ndombele, a Genus, there's loads and loads and loads of players where we've had a Gill, where we've had to loan them out because we can't list them, we can't put them in our squad. And the behaviour that I see from Levy is he will not bring a player in until there's a place for him in the squad.
No, I agree with you. Look, I
Yeah,
completely
but
agree with you. But it's not going to stop me getting frustrated with it or telling you.
Absolutely,
yeah. But that's where the issue comes. The more you wait, the more we wait to have to sell somebody, then it will be panic buys by the end of the transfer window. And that's a stupid thing. That's a stupid thing to do. That's always a stupid thing to do. You get your target, and then after that, you focus on selling your players.
We're going to
Why
find
can't he
somebody
do
like
this?
Jacob Ramsey to just an average squad player. Like I said, I don't think we're going to get more than one starter, unfortunately. We're going to get Kudus and maybe somebody like Ramsey, a squad player.
Well, then you really are relying on Thomas Frank to do something that Jose, Conte, and Postecoglou couldn't. Really get into their heads and develop them.
Which is why, coming back to Eugene's point, Sonny deciding he's not going to go, which was announced since we last spoke, is absolutely a problem for us. Because that's not a spot, and we're not going to force Sonny out of the club. It's why, in my head, I don't care what anybody says. There's money on the table for Solomon, and we should just take it. I don't care if Frank, with this, let Frank assess the player. No. There's a non-homegrown player here.
No, you have to take into account with Solomon, though, Ray, man. I get what people are saying. But at the end of the day, we had massive problems out wide last season. Johnson couldn't beat him, man. Udabur is still raw. Matisse Tell is still raw. Son's on the decline. He has no option as it stands but to take a look at Solomon. He's a player that's about to go into his prime. And with the problems we had out wide last year, he is actually put in a position by the football club, but to have no option but to look at this guy.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Dave. Right? If I said to you, Solomon leaving frees up the spot frees up the pipe, unclogs the pipe, so that we can get Kudus in.
But we shouldn't.
I'd be expecting.
We could have saved $5,000 a week on Ben Davies to unclog the pipe. We didn't have to bring back Matisse Tell, who didn't solve a problem last year, to unclog.
I agree with that as well.
Takai coming in, that's clogging up the pipe.
Stuff
like that. And it's sort of like we shouldn't be in a situation where you have to get rid of Solomon to clog up the pipe. At the end of the day, Thomas Frank, if he knows he needs ready to go now players in the Premier League to be able to, do what he's expected to do at Tottenham. He's actually in a position where he has no choice but to look at Solomon, given the options that was shit last season. He's no choice until they bring in a player. If they brought in Kudos or someone else, then he can say, oh yeah, I'm okay to let Solomon go. But right now, if I'm Thomas Frank, there is no way I'm letting Solomon go, knowing that I'm going straight back to the options that caused big problems for Tottenham Hotspur last year, and no guarantee Kudos or someone else is coming in the door. So there's no way, if I'm Thomas Frank, I'm letting him go before someone else comes in the door. Because I wouldn't trust the board.
Now, that's the way that you would want to behave in the market, right? But me, as a manager, coming into Tottenham Hotspur, hopefully knowing very well how Tottenham Hotspur behave in the market, right? Knowing that I'm not going to get Kudus in. However much I want Kudus to come in and then a player to go out, I'm not going to get Kudus in before a player goes out. I'd be like, get Solomon out of the club. Tell Bassuma, it sounds like there's rumoured interest in Bassuma. Tell Bassuma, don't bother coming in. Don't bother coming in, mate. Take a week or two to find yourself another club.
I believe he's already told Bassuma that he's instructed his agents to go and find himself a new club.
So if you can do that for Bassuma, he can do that for Solomon.
But he's got midfield options though ahead of Bassuma.
Yeah, but I think we've got options where Solomon is. It's not like last year we were relying on Solomon. We've got Sonny, we've got Richie can play equally well at left wing. I almost think it's his better position. I can see Eugene shaking his head, but he's an option there, right? We got Sonny, we got Odobert can play on the left side. We've got Tell, who clearly should be the number one choice now that we've got him on that left hand side. The reality is, if we don't sell players, we're not buying them.
Yeah,
What
but it's
are
so
we
sad.
doing
Like
then?
that list that you were giving is just a bunch of average players. It's depressing. You like every single player, and I agree with you. Like Richarlison, he needs to leave. I mean, it's just on the left hand side, it's average. On the right hand side, you have Kudus and Johnson. Okay, fine. We're okay. But if you look at the strikers and if you look at the left wing, just average players. Solomon, I don't think he's ever gonna play for us for non-football reasons. It's politics, so I think that's a big deal. I don't think he's gonna suit up. I would sell him as
Well,
well.
it's
It's man, the Stell deal, especially with Son staying, just makes no sense to me. That 30 million we could have used toward Eze or Kudus. I mean, Tell
yeah,
might be good in two,
that's
3 years, but Mikey Moore is there in the wings, and like us buying more youngsters, what message does it send to academy players? There's no pathway.
Jürgen,
We
what are
have
we
Divine,
doing here,
Mikey
man?
Moore, we have Donnelly. I mean, if you look at the big clubs like Liverpool, like City, like Chelsea, even there's a pathway, right? They buy top players, but at the same time, they give their youngsters opportunities, and the youngsters then either step up or they get sold. What we do is we have all these youngsters, we buy more youngsters, and then we end up with average players starting for
and
us.
we don't trust the youngsters to be brought
Yeah,
through.
exactly. So
Who,
if
who,
we end
who,
up
who
with
we would
Son,
get, who we would get 100% profit from.
yeah, I mean, if we end up with Son and Tel on the left, that's
No.
not nearly good enough. That's
you look at Javier at Liverpool. He hasn't played that many
exactly.
games, right? He hasn't played that many games. He's filled in. He's filled in for them when they need that filling. When they've got little gaps. And now there's clubs sniffing around looking to buy him. Why? Because he's played Premier League minutes. He's not going to be a superstar at Liverpool by the looks of it. But it does look like he's going to be a Premier League player. Why? Because he's had an opportunity, and other clubs are now going to take the risk on him.
And
Yeah.
that's how you save money on squad players. There is a homegrown quota. You build your team up with academy players who are good enough to be squad players. So, but again, what we do is we buy a bunch of squad players, but we don't have any top players to start for us. So
It
again,
feels
the
like
left-hand
Spurs are
side
just
is
like
shambles.
stockpiling youngsters to hopefully be able to sell them on for some type of profit, and then others they
We
hope
don't need
will
that.
actually make it through the squad. But the issue is that they're not at the same time buying guys for the here and now. Like it's almost like
Yeah.
I said this to Dave off screen, like they're doing this Chelsea approach of just buying a ton of players and then hopes that some of them come through, and then the ones that don't come through would just be bought for maybe slightly more money than they actually brought them in the first place for. But I just don't see it actually working out, because at this point we're running into the problem Rain Man's talking about, which is like we have so many guys like literally coming through. It's when I was looking at that, welcome back to Spurs video that they just put out recently. It was like a game of guess who. It's like, oh, Alfie Devine, I remember that guy. Oh, Alejo Valise, I forgot he was even at the club. It's become a situation where
But they're all youngsters.
they're all
and
youngsters, and we
this
barely
is the
even
problem.
see them play. We don't even
And
know.
we're buying more. And
we're buying even more.
But the thing is, like, it's not like we need to sell them on and sell them for profit. We're not under PSR constraints or whatever the other fucking letters are for the other financial yokes. We're not under any of them constraints. We don't need to be doing this. And right now, we shouldn't be doing this. This is pure neglect of the issues that Tottenham Hotspur face and that we need resolved. It is just pure neglect from the board. They learned that, look, they should have learned their lesson last season. Having a young squad like that is not good enough to compete across multiple fronts. And then one of them, you were going to pay a heavy, heavy price, if not in a couple. And they should have learned their lesson last season, and they should have been acting quick this summer. And I could smell it. Everyone else was out there getting their deals done, and we're pissing about getting a new manager. And even with Thomas Frank, we let that drag on until the window was closed. It's absolutely a load of bollocks. We should be doing things with decisiveness and doing things quickly. Liverpool do, Man City do, and hey presto, they win trophies. And I'm sorry, but that's what I'm in the game for. I want to lift trophies. I'm getting old. I'm getting grey. I don't have long left. I don't have time for, let's wait till the 1st of July, so it's a new financial year. I couldn't give a fuck anymore. I want to win, and I want to win now. And off the back of the Europa League, that should also be Tottenham's motto. They should look to build on that and go and compete. Daniel Levy said he wants to go and win a Premier League and Champions League. Words are one thing, actions are another, and it don't quite match up, you know, nowhere near it. And if he thinks this squad is, as it is, good enough to go and do it again, well, then Thomas Frank will be bounced out this door again next season after finishing low down the Premier League, bowed out of the Champions League because we've been outclassed and out-embarrassed. And I don't want to hear anyone blame Thomas Frank. This guy was brought in as the coach, the Messiah. It will not be his fault. It will be, again, the club's processes and everything behind the scenes. Thomas Frank, when he done his first interview, basically told everybody, I can't do this on my own. I need help from the board. I need help from the transfer committee. I need transfers. He said all this in his first interview, and he's still sitting here, start preseason, with absolutely fucking none of it. It's embarrassing and it's a shit show. Now, of course, they have time to start getting their ducks in a row. But the reality is, we're already playing catch up to the teams that Daniel Levy wants this guy to go and compete with, that the fans want this guy to go and compete with. They've already got their marquee signings in the door. They're already going to be there for pre-season, embedded in, getting up to speed, fitting in with the squad, everything else. Well, we're pissing about again, and we'll go to Frank 2 days before the window closes. There's 2 Tottenham players. Go and integrate them. But then you're already playing catch-up because they have to get up to speed, get used to your tactics, acclimatise to the Premier League and everything else, you know? And it's absolutely a load of bollocks. We paid the price for it last year, bringing in Solanke late, bringing in Uda Burr late, stuff like that, and we'll do the exact same again this year. It's nowhere near good enough. Like I said, I want to win fucking trophies now. I don't care about all these excuses. You know, 4 weeks ago, I laid out what I thought what the plan was by bringing in Frank. Everyone told me I was wrong. Now, everybody's sitting there panicking because we're not making signings. And I heard all the excuses. Oh, we don't need to rush. We have to wait for the new financial year. Man City, Chelsea, and Man United are constantly under scrutiny about their finances. They don't have to wait for the new PSR year. They don't. You know, we say Daniel Levy's an incredible businessman. I see more business aptitude from the guy at Chelsea who's managed to find ways around all the rules to be able to build the club he wants to build. That's fucking business acumen, not what Daniel Levy is doing. Daniel Levy is sitting there and just being cheap. I'm fed up with it. Anyway, Sonam.
Dave, I think
1 second. I just want to get to this, Rain, because it's been waiting there a while. He says, guys, do you think we are going to have players before the end of the transfer, or is it just like how it is now? Nothing. How many big money players, no kids, kids do you expect? Look, I'll be honest. I think, like, I agree with Eugene. I think we'll probably get one player that isn't actually a marquee signing, but compared to the rest of the players that we're prepared to bring in, will look like a marquee signing. Prime example, Dominic Solanke last season. In world football terms, not a marquee signing, but because of the business we done, marquee signing. So we almost lower the expectations by the business we do before to get this guy to be the Messiah, the one that everybody's happy with. And then we'll probably follow up with a load of signings that we've never heard of. We'll have to get Danny Rose, pull out the Google, start going onto YouTube for highlight reels and trying to make judgments off that. That's what we're going to end up doing, Sonam. But big yourself up. Apologize it's took so long to get here. I just get frustrated with Tottenham Hotspur.
I think we're probably expecting, I think most fans would be satisfied, Sonam, with one marquee signing up front, you know, in the winger areas, and then probably one in midfield, you know, maybe to replace someone like a Bassuma. I think most fans would probably be content with that. I think, you know, the majority of fans would be really happy if it were something around 2 to 3, maybe of some kind, but probably the majority of us are expecting only around one really this summer. Sorry.
So I would say to Sonam, I think the problem, and it just to respond to what Dave said, I think the problem is we have spent quite a lot of money this summer. And it's not that we're being cheap. So we're spending money on the wrong bloody players, right? We're spending the money in the wrong players, right? We've already spent up,
what, 5 million?
We've already spent close to £80 million this summer. We bought Danso. We spent money on Tell. We bought this Takai kid. We've paid for Buskovich because he's now.
So why did everyone tell Simon Jordan he was wrong when he said we wouldn't be active this summer? Everybody said he's wrong. Don't worry about it. That's not true. Well, in hindsight, then he's correct.
No.
If we're still paying like Danzo from January, now Simon Jordan was spot on the whole time.
But again, we can be as active as we'd want. But if we're active and buying the wrong freaking players, which is where I personally think we are. I don't think we should have bought Tell. I think we should have already sacked off Solomon. I think we should have just, if money was on the table from Leeds, we should have just taken it. Get that player off our books. We should be sending Gill to La Liga and telling him, find a club who's going to buy you, and we're not going to send you there unless a club pays money to buy you. Otherwise, you're going to sit here and you're going to, I'm sorry, you're going to rot, right? You're going to rot. And we don't care. Your transfer value is already at rock bottom. You either go and play, and we get, I mean, 5 to 10 million is what we're going to get for this kid now, or it's what we're going to get, right? You go and you get out of our club.
I don't agree with this narrative because, right?
It's called the real world. It's called the real world.
Have we got no ambition?
What do you disagree with, Ryan?
Of course not.
Yeah, it feels like you're just disagreeing just to disagree. I think you actually agree with
Yeah.
me.
I think you agree. I think we're all saying the same thing.
We all say Tell is not a good signing. We all agree on that, Ryan. I don't understand why you're saying you disagree.
We shouldn't have bought Tell. Sonny
Yeah.
Sterling
No, sorry then, because I thought you said you wanted Tell.
No,
you didn't.
nobody
You haven't
said
listened
that.
to a word he said.
No one said that.
Him being here is a problem. We are spending money on kids. It doesn't matter whether they're a 40 million kid like Tell or you know, okay, Bergval we got for 10. You know, the problem is. I am very, very clear, and I think Dave is in the same place. It's one of the things I loved about this channel during that under-21 academy run. We should be promoting youth from within the club, and we should be buying 2 or 3 quality players, and we should be spending the money on the squad in that way. And we don't. What we do is we try to generate asset value by buying 21-year-olds. Buying 4 21-year-olds and hoping that one is going to give us a profit.
Yeah, Tell was just an easy deal because Byron owes us money. That's what it was. And
it doesn't matter. But
anyone else on this panel want Tell? So why the hell are we? I don't care whether we could easily have turned around and said no. Let's have Polina instead.
Yeah, we could have done a lot of things right now, but
Polina plays a different position. That's from 2 fan shows ago, but I'm just going to put my
but
foot
we
down
need
on
it.
that. But we do need someone like Polina, but I don't understand why we're talking about 2 different positions, you know, of players. We shouldn't be.
Tell is absolutely
no, but it makes sense.
Don't get me
we
wrong.
need a DM, Jack. We need
a DM, but you
a
can't say,
DM.
oh, we shouldn't have bought a winger. We should have bought a DM. We need a winger and a DM. So
yeah, but the quality
thing
is right. It's not the winger.
The quality.
It's the quality of the winger.
The quality
It's
of
not
the winger. Yeah.
For us.
Tell is. People keep saying Tell is going to cook on the Frank, but to be honest, I've seen 20 games of Tell. He's a hard working kid, but he's not strong enough. He gets bopped off the ball too easily. 3 goals and 1 assist in 20 games is not a good return.
Like,
for a $30 million player, that's not a good return.
Like, don't get me wrong. Go on. Like, don't get me wrong. I was going to say, Jerome, like, I do think Tell has the potential to be a very good player for Tottenham in years to come. I've seen enough on his loan spell with his quick feet and stuff to say, if a manager can really harness that and give clear and precise instructions, this is what I want you to go out and do, I think you will see a player that will develop here at Tottenham Hotspur. Where my problem comes in is we need to drag our squad to be able to go and compete in the Champions League. No one wants to be embarrassed in it. And in order to do that, that's 30 million we could have brought in, we could have used, like someone said earlier on, towards Eze, towards Kudus, which means then we're not pissing about trying to go in below the asking price and stuff like that. And that's where my frustration comes in. I have no problem with Tottenham going out and signing youngsters. But where my problem comes in is twofold. If you're prepared to go out and sign youngsters, make sure you got the money to bring in the statement players that this fucking football club needs. Second of all, we don't need to keep going around Europe and buying youngsters because we've got some of the best youngsters that this club has ever produced in their lifetime that are they're the ones being farmed out on loan. Why can't Udeberg go out on loan? Why can't we send Tell out on loan to go and develop? Why has it always got to be our players? Someone like Donnelly. Bergval got his chance last year and everyone's raving about him. Rightly so, he took it. But Donnelly was farmed out to left back to accommodate Bergval. You know, these are the things that we shouldn't be doing at this fucking football club. Right now, we've got a stockpile of centre-backs of 5 or 6 that are all young, in around the same age. You got a stockpile of wingers all the same. But the reality is, we've seen last season, it's not good enough to put points on the board right now. And that's the name of the game. We're off the back of winning the Europa League. We have to go in and hit the ground running next year. There's no expectations on Tottenham. We have to go and hit the ground running next year. And there can't be any excuses. You've got to put points on the board. Can't be any excuses. We can't sit there and go, well, we would have on another day if Tell was a bit more developed. That's bollocks. That's an indictment of our transfer market. That's the guy you brought in to go and be that guy to put points on the board. We've seen that last season. They're not ready. So we have to fucking get active in this market and bring in players that are ready to go now.
If Daniel Levy actually wanted to achieve his ambitions, I think most Spurs fans would agree that he'd have been better off not buying Tell, which was an easy hit. It was an easy hit. That's why we got Tell, because it's an easy hit, right? It's an easy transfer. You think how hard it is to negotiate with Daniel Levy. He feels it the other way. He feels it's very hard to negotiate with people because they don't accommodate him. So Tell was an easy hit. Don't buy Tell. Go out and buy Mbeumo and Kudus. Sack off Solomon. Sack off Gill. Let Bassuma out. Don't buy a 20-year-old Japanese central defender who might become very good. I'm not doubting that, but promote from within. If we need bolstering of a youngster, we've got Phillips, we've got Dorrington. Let them have a chance, right? And then we don't have to spend money. We don't have to spend money on them, and we don't have to worry that we've bought a player who's now going to fill a very, very precious squad slot in the regulations. Spend the money on and you know what? Let Richarlison go and buy. You don't know. You just don't know. If we went to Sporting and went, look, here's 70 million. We're going to give you 250. We're going to give you 250k a week, right? Would we get Gyökeres? Right? You don't know, but you can only achieve if you're optimistic and you take a risk.
Yeah, but that's the thing, Raymond. It's like everybody's talking about this and everything, but the thing is, all you said is correct. He could have done all of those things, but he's not going to do it.
No.
That's the issue. He's not going to do any of those things. We can talk about all of those. It's been the same thing for the last 20 past years.
Well, is that where fans have to stop blaming the managers, though, Jerome, and actually go after the problem?
Yes.
Because we keep getting into this cycle where we go, oh, well, he's not as good as everybody made out. And we've had some of the best managers in world football over the last few years. So, like, what point do you stop blaming the managers and actually go after the real problem? That's what fans have to do.
Yeah. And again, even though I am not like very excited about the Frank appointment, what I'm going to say is I'm not going to blame the guy if everything becomes a debacle. I'm not going to blame him because again, he's being let down.
Yeah.
By the club, by the owners, like every single manager that has come before him. And it's not going to change. I'm sorry, everybody can go and tell me he's a coach, Tell's going to cook under him, he's going to be doing things like all of those players going to develop under him because, I'm sorry, no, it's not. It's not. The same issue we had in this team, we will see the same issue happening again. The same mistake that's been happening under Ange is going to be happening under Frank. It's not going to change. Because we are kids.
Jerome, on Tell, who was the last player that Bayern or Madrid or Barca let go who turned out to be a top player? I just feel like if Bayern, who have good talent ideas, or Madrid, if they're desperate,
if Bayern let you go,
somebody, if they're desperate,
you're average. Yeah,
to get rid of somebody,
Bayern let you go, you're average.
Exactly.
Yeah. So people can tell me, oh, Tell was cooking under Bayern. Why did Bayern let you go then? But
look at
to
get rid of him.
The players he has to play with. He doesn't have that quality at Tottenham, that support cast. You know what I mean? You're almost asking him to be that Harry Kane or be that fucking whatever else players they use. Just quickly, I just need to get this one off the table. Mr. Box Office says, here comes Mr. Luke David, who bought us debates, but Mr. Box Office. First of all, I think I got the text at about 11 o'clock Friday evening to be honest with you, lad, it's 11 o'clock on a Friday. I have much better things to be doing than talking Tottenham Hotspur. I've got a missus at home. I've got TV series I like watching, movies. I like playing a bit of Xbox. I could be having a Chinese or something. I have much better things to be doing than talking about fresh air, because that's all that's coming out of Tottenham on 11 o'clock on a Friday evening. Plus, I wasn't even around Friday. I was actually doing stuff. But in general, trust me, Alex, come to me at a normal time, not 11 o'clock in the evening when I have much better things to be doing. Sorry, guys. Where were we?
That's funny. It's like, why is he saying you butthole?
But Dave, right?
So,
The problem is,
so,
Dave,
I
with our
will add.
fans, right,
Sorry,
Dave,
Ryan.
with the problem is with our fans, right, where we want to get Levy out, right? Our fans are too soft. They allow this to keep going on year in, year out, and it's been like that for 20 odd years, right? And I'm sick and tired of trying to attack Levy, because every time I try and attack Levy, there's always someone who says afterwards, well, no, but Levy's done good business for the last 25
Last week you said he would
years.
get the signings done, though, Ryan.
Yeah.
I-
You said he was going to get Eze.
You said he would get the
Look,
Kudus deal done. You said he would get the
Look,
signings
he
done this
will-
summer.
He will get the Kudus. He'll get the Kudus deal done. But I'm sick and tired, yeah, right, of still having.
So isn't
to
it you
look
that's
at
making the
Levy.
excuses for Levy then? If you actually think that he's getting the
Yeah,
deals
Ryan,
done.
now you're waffling.
You're the
my
only
friend.
one that's.
No,
We're all
I'm not
complaining about
waffling,
Levy
Levy.
not getting the deals done. We're all in agreement with what you're saying. But last week you said the
Absolutely.
opposite. You said he would get the deals done.
Yeah, but he'll get, like I said, right? I said that about Eze, and Eze could still come through, but I'm looking at the bigger picture here, though, Jacko, right? I'm looking
Are
at
you
it
saying we're not looking
over
at the bigger
last-
picture?
Because I'm not looking at taking just a small sample. I'm taking the whole 25 years into consideration. And the last 25 years has been utter dog shit, apart from a couple of signings that we've brought in, like Bow and Van der Vaart. And
So
So what's your point, Rhino?
I just don't
Rhino,
think, I
I
don't
will-
think anyone's saying anything different to what you're pointing out about. I think everyone is very much this show for nearly an hour at this point, all very much venting our frustration with Levy. I think, in fact, people are going a bit further than what you were, for example, last week. Last week, you seemed to suggest that we would get the deals done and that Daniel Levy would get over the line. Majority of people
Yeah,
on this
I'm
panel are
thinking about
afraid that he actually won't get the deals done. This
So
summer.
our first
I'm
home
thinking about
game, our first home game is the 16th of August, right? Is that 16th of August
Yeah.
against Burnley. I'm hoping that we will have a change for Tottenham March at that home game. I don't want to hear any of this. I've been to the change for Tottenham marches outside the stadium. Again, I'm a season ticket holder. I'm fortunate enough to go to the stadium regularly, and I think they've been absolutely fantastic. I hope that they have one at that first game. I hope that we don't go, let's wait and see, because I think we can all. I don't think we're stupid, right? We're all looking at what's going on, and we like, I know this tune. I've heard this tune before. I know what the next couple of verses of this tune is. I've been listening to this tune for 20 summers, and I know what's going on. So I'm hoping that Change for Tottenham will not go, we're going to wait and see. I'm hoping that they will just go, last year, we got our foot on the neck of this club, and I hope that we're going to keep the pressure up.
Yes,
but do you think we can keep the pressure on? Because at this point in time, right, like I said, I look at it from the bigger picture. I don't just take samples like some of these other fans, and I'm not saying Dave or Jack ever have done that, and I'm not saying that one little bit, but there are fans out there that take samples of transfer windows, right, and say, well, this is why, right, we need to keep Levy. But if you look at the bigger picture overall, right, that I know Dave and Jack both do, right, that 9 times out of 10, the windows have been a diabolical. But do you honestly think that Change of Tottenham can keep their neck on?
You know what? On
Levy?
that, Rhino,
I think
I'm not-
I think
that's
the
not me
only way
being
it was
humble, mate.
contested.
That's not me
I
being
think
humble to you, mate.
Oh, no,
I think one of the most powerful forces in the universe is momentum, and I think if they don't keep it up, it will die. So I
problem
think,
is-
and I think that's an even more important reason why Change for Tottenham should do something on the first home game of the season.
Yeah.
But the problem is, though, I think they've already lost momentum, and I don't think it's down to their own fault, to be quite honest with you.
If you want a trophy.
Look, you know, as soon as me and Jack got over there and had a chance to protest, and yes, we were off the back of making the Europa League final, nobody turned up.
Yeah,
There was about 20 or 30 of us there. That was it. You know, nobody turned up. And then when the question was, when people turn, oh, we're in the Europa League final, it's like, but if you really want this to get going, you have to be consistent. If we're winning games, you got to take the flack that comes your way. Because when you're losing games, them same people that giving you flack will be apologizing and be standing on your side. But it's got to be consistent. You can't pick and choose when you want to do it. That one after the, after the Palace game, after making Europa League final, nobody turned up. Before that, they were getting a couple of thousand, but nobody turned up, and that's the problem. At some point, you gotta be consistent with it and say, look, you know, fair play. People have tried, but I think the problem is no one's a professional in that world or really knows what they're doing, and people are trying, and much credit to them. But I just feel like all the momentum was lost when no one turned up to the one. Once we made the Europa League final, all the momentum was gone.
Yeah. I think Dave's right. Phil Coy is saying it's very results dependent as well. I'd agree with that. I think it usually is just kind of dependent on the run of form and the results. They probably were the strongest they ever were at this last season because Spurs were 17th. And it felt like a lot of times you did see some big tweets and some big protests planned around, you know, the really, really bad run of form. Not as much, you know, around when Spurs actually did have something to look forward to in the Europa League, to be honest. It's true.
But I agree. It is definitely on a result. All the protests, it all depends on the results. It's like when we were 17th, thousands of them turned up when everything was going really bad. We were down in the mud. Thousands of them just turned up to be like, even went on TV. But suddenly when we are in Europa League final, we won the trophy, nothing. Why? Why can't they still keep up the same thing? And everybody keep going, we want Levy out, Inic out, Levy out. But when things go well, we don't hear nobody. But things are really bad when they all turn up.
I do understand
the
that,
point?
though, and I do feel sorry for them to a degree because the amount of pelters they get when things are going right, you know, that can affect you, you know, if you're not built for it, you know, because you do get a lot of it. So I can understand, you know, why people maybe, you know, ease off when things are going well and stuff. And to effect, sometimes, look, I can be the same, but, you know, I'm just saying in general, you know, if you want to keep the pressure on the owners, you got to take the good with the bad. You just got to be a bit more consistent with it. I will take this from Drew Zilla, member for 1 second, Ryan, and we'll come back to you, my man. Member for 22 months. Big up, lads. This show is testing my sobriety. Also, Takai and Vescovic don't take up Premier League spots because they're under 21. The issue is Champions League squad. Well, look, you know, don't let Tottenham test your sobriety, Drew. You know, don't let that. I'd rather you have a smoking hot chick in front of you that says, you know, that tests your sobriety or something like that than Tottenham Hotspur, to be quite frank. But yeah, you're right when it comes to Takai and Vescovic. They can go onto the under 21 list for the Premier League. But if you want to play them in Europe, they are going to have to be registered within them 17 non-homegrown spots. So it'd be interesting to see what we do there because we right now, to Rayman's point, we do have a bloated squad. But at the end of the day, to be honest, I couldn't care about the box ticking exercises yet. Get the players in and we'll get players out the door. I tell you now, players will very quickly instruct their agent to get a move if they know there's no game time and it's been made perfectly clear to them. But big up, Drew. Good to see you, my man.
Sounds like Drew maybe isn't as frustrated with, you know, the lack of signings at all, you know, maybe this summer. To be honest, Drew, I'd love to have your patience because I'm just getting exceptionally worried because it just seems like Spurs have just been operating on the back foot this entire window. But, you know, it'd be nice to actually hear a difference of opinion because I think a lot of us are all in the same and kind of the same mind and of the same opinion. Let's
arrange a conversation with Drewski then. He can maybe come on and give us, you know, something that we can maybe alleviate my concerns or my fears. Because to be honest with you, Drew, people have tried, but I just get irritated and I go, no, that's an excuse. So if you can do that, fair play to you, my man. But big up, Drew. I do believe we want to let Eugene go. I believe Eugene has some stuff he needs to crack on with for the rest of his day. So Eugene, big up. Really appreciate your time. Eugene. And we'll speak to you again soon, man.
Good talking to you guys. Yep.
Have a good night. Anything else you want to say before we let you go?
No, again, I'm just saying, you know, hopefully, you know, the board, It will prove us wrong. I don't expect it. Again, I think what's going to happen is we're going to get Kudus through the line. We're going to sell the Romero. And as what happens in the past, when we sell Kane, we didn't get a replacement in for years. Even now we don't. Even when we sold Sanchez, we didn't bring in a center back for 2 years. So I'm afraid it's going to be business as usual. So, but let's see what happens. I hope I'm wrong.
Hopefully,
But why
this
do we
week's
need to sell our best players?
What's that?
Why do we have to sell our best players? Why
Because
do we
they're,
need to sell
because
Romero?
they're players,
Because of
they're players that we can sell.
yeah,
They
but why
want
we
to
need
go.
to sell from
Romero wants
Romero?
to
He's
go.
one of our best players. He's
Yeah,
our
I
vice
agree.
captain.
You
Why
don't
do we
sell
need to
your
sell
best
him?
players.
You
We
don't sell
don't,
your best players.
but they want to go. And Romero, I mean, if he wants to go, if we get 70 million for him, to be honest, I want him to stay as well. But given his injury history and just given, some performances for 70 million, I would sell him and bring in somebody else. I don't want to, but he just wants to go at this point. And if he wants to go, it is what it is, unfortunately. We just need a replacement. That's all, right? If we sell him, we need to bring in a top center back,
Well,
which is not going
the
to happen.
replacement we've got so far is Takai.
Well,
So that's
exactly.
his
So
replacement.
that's my issue. My issue, like anybody can be for sale. The problem is if you sell somebody, you have to bring in a better player or player who's just as good. And we never do that. So that's my issue.
Mhm.
All right, boys.
Great job, Eugene.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
So I'm really hoping that we don't sell. Think about it. I'm really hoping that we don't sell Romero very specifically. I think you're looking. Not only do I think he's a great man, I also think he's injured a lot. I'm not sure it actually stacks up. I've gone and had a look at his minutes. His minutes are pretty good. Yeah, he had a bad last season. So did a lot of other players. But his season before that, he was like 30 odd games in the Premier League out of 38. The season before that, he did well over 2,000 minutes, with almost 2,500 minutes. And if Frank does want the flexibility to play 2 centre backs or 3 centre backs, I can think of no other player that I've seen who has that wherewithal, has that experience, because he used to play 3 at the back in Italy, to be flexible in that way. And you look at our Europa League run, and it really was a show of how flexible some of our players actually can be. When Danzo coming on to play 3 at the back when we needed to, but also Romero. One of my favourite Pochettino teams was when we had either Wanyama or where we had Dyer, who would drop into defence, or then push into the midfield. And I'm hoping that Frank is going to give us that kind of tactical flexibility. You can only do that, as Jerome said, if you've got really good players.
Yeah, but we don't have a DM to do that for the moment. Like you said, like you had Wanyama and Dyer doing, but we don't have that quality DM to do this. To me, like even Bentancur is not really a DM. He's an attacking midfielder, but he's not really a DM to me. Like we need this protection for our back. We need that DM, and currently we don't have this, and we are just, I don't know, we're just wasting our time. We should be looking for a DM. We should be looking for a left back. We should be looking for another right winger. We should be looking for another striker to compete with Solanke. But we're not.
Yeah, but
We're not. We're not.
But
Just
Jerome,
quickly, go on, Rainer.
Right, what I want to get back onto about what was said about just a minute ago about change for Tottenham, yeah, right? Don't you think, right, though, that it'd be a lot better like the other night when 50 Cent was down there, right? Having a load of them go down there, stand outside the gates, protesting their absolute hardest to try and get Levy out.
No,
Wouldn't that be a good
No,
option?
that's
And then we'd be
no,
NFL and things like that.
No, nobody cares about 50 cents. Like
No.
nobody cares about this. Like
Right.
nobody's going to do anything about it.
Yeah, Ryan,
No,
I'll tell you why that first one was so successful. it's because lads and dads went to the protest before they went to the game. So you're not going to get someone like me who goes to games regularly, but it takes me an hour and a half to get down to the stadium, and I've got commitments here at home. You're not going to get me to do a 4-hour round trip to protest when it's not a game. I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Or someone like me, I'd be going to watch 50 Cent if he's there, not protest the guy. I really like 50 Cent, you know. And look, be honest with you, if I'm paying, I'm going to the game regardless of what's going on before or after. If I'm paying to go there, I'm going to the game. Just quickly, want to take this from Brian Timlin. First of all, big up, Brian. Hopefully you're keeping well. Team Galway having an okay championship this year. He says, too much complaining, lads. There's a lot of change going on, and they will make 2 or 3 very good signings. It's a good young squad with a cracking manager to develop the team that just won. Look, first of all, I like you, Brian, but I would say how rich, considering you were the one doing a lot of complaining last season. Let's not forget that. You know, you just flipped because we brought in Frank. So you're only having a couple of weeks off. So please don't come in here and say too much complaining when you've been doing it for the last 7 or 8 months. Second of all, people told me I complained too much last summer transfer window, even the Anjin crowd. I was proven right. We had a shit window. And to be honest with you, your boy Frank said in his interview, go back and look at it, one detail, and he said it in his interview that wasn't highlighted as much. He needs transfers. He needs help. He needs the help of the board. He needs help of the regular football. He can't just come in and do it on his own. He effectively said that in his first interview. And I'm only advocating for signings to help Thomas Frank. That's all. And that's why I'm getting pissed off. I'm not going to sit here like the Ange fans done last year. Don't worry about it, Dave. Ange just got it. Ange just this. Ange just that. I knew Ange wasn't. I knew he needed the right players to help achieve his objectives. I knew that. And I know it's the same with Thomas Frank. You know, this idea that he's going to sit on the training field from Monday to Friday and coach these guys to do what he wants to do is idealistic. He's not going to have that time because he's got European games and cup games midweek, which means travel, which means less time on the training pitch. When you've less time on the training pitch, that's where you need some experienced players to go and put points on the board when that melee arrives, not relying on players that you're looking to develop on. So what I'm saying is, Brian, is Ange fans had a go at me last year for being negative, and I tried to heed the warnings and that what was on the horizon to come. And I'm going to do the same with Thomas Frank, whether people like me or not. Because you know what? When the window's closed, someone like you will be sitting in here moaning about the lack of transfers. And that's where I'll just turn around and go, well, Brian, hate to say it, but I told you so. And I don't want to do that, Brian, because I like you. But anyway, Brian, let's get on. Let's have a debate sometime. You and Drewski can come and tag team me.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure we're complaining. I think I've got a lot of hope, and I hope that this is what's going to happen. I just look and I think back, and I look at what's going on now, and I'm just worried. I'm really, really worried that we sign Tell, we sign a non-homegrown young centre back. We've got players who we're going to struggle to get rid of, which is why I think we should just take the Solomon money and just get him off our books. I'm worried that the problem that we've got is going to stop us signing players.
Sorry, just quickly, I can't help myself. But Sean, don't tell me to come and be less negative. When I was behind the project last year in the Europa League run, you were the one being negative. So again, you try being less negative. Sorry, let's move on. But don't you dare come in because you've had 3 weeks of being on an oasis because you want to jack off to Thomas Frank. Come in and say, Dave, you're being negative. When last season you spent longer being a lot more negative than I did. So don't do that, Sean. Thank you very much. And I will pull people up on that. Don't come in now and say being negative when you spent the last 24 months being negative. Not having it. But sorry, let's move on, guys.
I do think I am a little bit concerned. And somebody who goes to the, I know what the Tottenham fan, what the stadium's like. I am a little bit concerned that there's 2 camps who are kind of forming. And one is the camp that's not really sure about Frank, who kind of still hanker after Ange. Didn't really think we should have got rid of Ange, and maybe we'll turn on Frank who I think has got a big job to do. And but at the other end, I think like Sean and like Billy, I think there's a lot of, to Dave's point, I think there's a lot of fans who are putting a lot of expectation on Frank, that he's going to come in and he's going to shine turds, right?
If
And
Jose Conte couldn't do it, honestly, what makes people think Frank can do it?
The one thing that Frank needs more than anything else is time.
I think the two camps are, there are people who feel like Frank will be given all these, sort of new signings. Daniel Levy's going to eventually, pull his finger out his ass and he's going to be able to get these signings done. And then there are people who feel like the same pattern is going to repeat itself, where we take far too long to actually do any business at all. Then all of a sudden, the end of the window comes up and we haven't done any of the business that people would have expected at the beginning of the summer window to get done. It's the classic case where in the beginning of the window, if you ask most Spurs fans, they would say, yeah, big money signing in the forward area, big money signing in the midfield, get this player out, get this player out, get this player out. And then at the end of the window, I think we'll find that we'll probably have, a lot of people come to truths that probably not much that will actually get done. I think that's the two camps. There are people who are optimistic that we will get the majority of the business done, and then there are people who aren't as optimistic.
I do want people to understand, though, like,
and that's fine. Some people could be optimistic, others don't have to be, but I think that's the split at the minute.
I'm just sick of being in this perpetual cycle of hiring and firing every 2 years. Like, if we want to go and compete, look how long Guardiola's been at Man City. Yeah, you can say the money they've thrown, but consistency. Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool to drag them to the standard, with the spine of the team, ready-made players and stuff like that. That's where I'm coming from. I just want to see some consistency in the dugout. And in order to see that, your transfers and what the club do for you go a long way to keeping you in your job and go a long way to achieving your objectives, or go a long way to getting you fired. So that's where my aim is. I just want us to do things right and really kick on. I don't want to be sitting here next year with another split in the camp. One camp going, Thomas Frank's fucking useless. Another one going, he's the Messiah. Shut the fuck up. Because to be honest with you, it wrecks my head. Absolutely wrecks my head. For once, I just want us to know what the plan is and get behind it and move behind it going forward, and we do the right things by it that keep people on the plan. That's all I want. Life can be simple.
I think the other thing too, with AK Sheg saying, would love for us to just move on and talk about how we're going to kick on this season. Tired of the same Levy talk. I think the point is that we need transfer business to happen in order for us to kick on. We need players shipped out and we need players brought in order for us to have any sort of positive conversation about us actually kicking on next season. If we're going into next season with the exact same squad, pretty much, I don't think we can have, very optimistic conversations about us kicking on in any sense.
I mean, the point is, AK, that we've got our first pre-season game in 12 days, right? And as it stands, the team that's going to go into that game, minus a few internationals who I think maybe are turning up late. I don't know. Is basically going to be the team that finished 17th in the Premier League last season, without new signings. I'm hoping that that's wrong. I'm desperately hoping that over the next, tomorrow, that we're gonna get Kudos through the door, that we're gonna get some other players. Some surprises through the door. Douglas Luiz, some cracking other players through the door. But I just hate for us to go on the South Korean tour without having our squad in place.
Yeah. I think there'll be
I just don't think we can have a conversation about kicking on without actually transfer business being done. I think conversations about kicking on start to happen when you see the picture of what things might look like with next season. If everything looks like it's going to be the exact same in terms of your squad to work with from last season, to talk about kicking on then would mean that you're putting a lot of trust in, I guess, the manager to just somehow fix everything without any new signings of any kind. And reason why we're just tired of, I mean, Levy is synonymous with transfers. Okay, like he is the guy that budgets the transfers, so Levy will come up. I think it's hard to talk about Tottenham transfers without Daniel Levy coming up at some point, in the conversation.
Yeah,
he's the one that's been here this whole time. It's just like you can't talk about you know, a hot dog without there being, you know, a bun or something involved. You know, it's part of the,
Onions.
it just goes with it. You know, it's just, he is part of the ingredients of the transfers. It'd be great if we never had to mention him, but he will be mentioned. You know, he's just synonymous with the transfers.
And as well, the reason why his name keeps popping up is because he runs the club piss poorly in terms of football and decisions, hiring and firing managers every 2 years. You know, when you've got an 18-month rotation policy over the length you've been here, of course your name's going to keep popping up. Of course you're going to get blamed for stuff. You know, it's you that's making these decisions at the end of the day. And then the questions come in, well, why does it keep going wrong every 18 years to 2 months? You know, and that keeps going back to the club, which again, he's in control of. So it's hard not to, like, I don't want to be one of these guys that bring him up for absolutely everything. You know, Tell got injured, that's Daniel Levy's fault. That's not the case. But, you know, at the end of the day, like Jack says, it's hard when this guy is the one that could just loosen the purse strings and say, go and improve this squad and let's go and compete.
But we did also, we did also say at the start, why is there a Tottenham tax? There is a Tottenham tax because of our chairman. There's a Tottenham tax because of how awkward he is to deal with. That's why that's why we signed Tell. It's because that was an easy deal. There's a Tottenham tax because he's burnt all his bridges. I'll be very honest. I'm very much of the Enoch out variety, but more than that, I think he's an excellent chairman and a rubbish CEO, and I think he should just go and just manage the group and just have nothing whatsoever to do with the club.
Yeah. Correct.
So can I just ask you something?
Mia hasn't spoken at all yet since coming in.
Yeah, I haven't. I came in about Romero and then got sidetracked. I didn't come in at the right time because I wasn't let in. But anyway, if Romero wants to stay, he should stay, and if he don't want to stay, then he should absolutely go. I've just had my Tottenham tattoo done. Actually, I've just come back from having done.
What did you get done?
I got the European Cup with the cockerel, and then I got the To Dare Is To Do, and then the game is about glory.
Nice. No Romero holding the cup or anything like that, no?
No, I don't, as much as I like players, I'm never that thingy with players where I'd get one tattooed on my body. I'd never get, I wouldn't even get my children. Like, I just don't know, like, it's not really my thing. But yeah, back to what you were saying, Dave. To me, the biggest issue has been the fact that we've changed managers. That has been the biggest fundamental issue, because when we had stability with Poch, look what can happen. And then we've got Jose, obviously we've got Nuno, we've got Jose, and then Conte only wanted to be here for a short term anyway, because his contract was a very short term one, and we keep doing this short termism, and we can't do that. We need to stick with somebody.
Like we did with Poch.
Yeah, that we did with Poch.
When we get the manager comes in, does well in the first year because players maybe have a point to prove off the previous regime, and you almost get that new manager bounce. But then it almost feels like the second year ticks up to a certain degree. There's an acknowledgement that we need to bring in, ready-made players, and then all of a sudden the manager's bounced out the door, the next guy's brought in, and it's a perpetual cycle like that. Like to your point, you've got to stick there at some point and go, okay, we're going to keep players.
And the issue as well, Dave, is that the fans also don't really want to back it, because they obviously don't half. Well, yeah, we won't talk about that. With half the fans wanted Ange out, so obviously, that's the thing. Half the fan base are happy because they wanted Ange, and half the other fans said, no, actually, we do want. Or maybe it's less than that. I don't know, but you get what I'm saying, because obviously, then the fans are always going to be in turmoil and against each other, because some of the fans wanted him to stay, some want him to leave, and that's the same with all of our managers. We need to stick with a manager and then all get on board with it. Just all get on board, and then and sort of ride it out in a way, because we have to have that consistency to see what a manager can actually do. Man, we can't keep hiring and firing managers. It's crazy.
Spot on.
Again, something that I just saw, which is makes no sense. What do you mean? You don't agree with sticking? I'm sorry, Mia, it's not you, but I just saw this and said, what do you mean you don't like sticking with the manager? It's about the director of football. What does that even mean? What does a director of football will do for your team? If you don't have a manager that can coach your team, that can do something for your team, what the director of football is going to do for your team? The director is going to direct them and tell your team to be playing in a certain way, telling them to do something. The director of football is not going to do anything. The director of football is just going to be signing players. We need a good director of football to be signing good quality players. We need to stick with a manager and have a plan with a manager. Right now, Tottenham doesn't have any plan. We don't have nothing. We just have a 2-year something, a 2-year plan for a manager, and see how it goes. And if things doesn't go well, we just change again. And that's why we never succeed. Now that we won a trophy with a manager and we sack him because he finished 17th in the league. How is that a plan? How is that giving us any confidence if this club is doing anything? They don't have any direction. They don't have any plans. And don't come and tell me that sticking with a manager is not something that Tottenham can't do. And it's about the director of football. This is absolute nonsense.
But that's
absolute nonsense.
But that's exactly it, Jerome. What happens is that the fans get restless and then they sack the manager. Instead of us all just saying, do you know what, we've got to ride out sometimes a bit of a bad period and see if we can stick with a manager, fans get restless and go, no, we've got to sack him. And then that obviously then, you know, like I say, like it's not a good thing to do. We need to, like Alex said, why stick with manager? Because, Alex, consistency has been proven in the Premier League to work. Every manager or most managers that have a consistent period at a club, they do end up doing well. So their consistency clearly does work, doesn't it?
Alex wants the Abramovich model where, you know, you can hire foreign managers, but at the end of the day, Abramovich had the very best players 3 times over in his squad to be able to go, yeah, it's the manager's fault. He had no one else but to blame but the manager. You know, Alex wants to, you know, have that policy at Tottenham, but yet on the same breath knows Daniel Levy's never going to operate like that. So surely if Levy ain't going to operate like that, then Alex, you understand that, you know, and you look at the history of the Premier League, having a manager in the dugout for successive years is usually what brings you about success, or at least puts you in the conversation.
Can I be the supportive voice of what Alex has said? Because rather than everybody disagreeing with it, because I think it's absolutely spot on. I think our periods of success, and it's a lag, right? There is a lag, yeah. Because you buy a player now, everybody thinks they're going to be great this season. They're very rarely great this season. That usually it takes, even if they come into a new club from the same league, it takes them 6 months to a year to settle in and to become a good player. So there's always a lag, but I'm absolutely clear that our periods of success have come when we've had good directors of football, when we've had Paul Mitchell, when we've had Frank Arneson. The years after them have been good years. And the years after bad directors of football, like Hitchin, I think Commonly was doubtful. Baldini, awful, right? And these down periods, Paratici is another good example, right? Good director of football, and the lag time after him, we get some form of success. I
hear what you're saying, but
wait a minute. One last thing. I don't think managers being in place is an example of them then being successful. I think they're in place if they're successful.
I get what you're saying, right? I understand what you're saying, right? But at the end of the day, why are you giving the director of football more control over absolutely everything when he's not the one who knows how to implement tactics, manage these players on a day-to-day basis, train them, etc., etc.? You know, it's absolutely flawed. You at a big club, you bring in a manager you think is a good manager and going to bring you there, and you back him with what he needs to get you there. And this is where we're going wrong at Tottenham Hotspur. We're going to director of football. You build the squad, and then we'll try and make the manager work with that. I'm sorry, but it's never going to happen like that. You have to bring in the manager that you want to back and go and fucking back him. At this point, then basically what you're telling me is the director of football has total control over everything. You may as well stick him in the fucking dugout then. If he's the one out there buying the players and everything else, stick him in the fucking dugout. Let's see how he fucking gets on. Because I think he won't win a fucking game.
I think the most important factor to whether you're going to be successful on a football pitch or not is how good the players are. And the person who's buying the players is the director of football. And so if you have a good director,
well, are we not missing a point? Should the director of football not be speaking with the manager and working with him and bringing in players for him?
But it absolutely should be a partnership. You should be buying players for the type of coach and manager. And then we come back to this, you change manager every 18 months. We go from a motivational manager who likes to play attacking, who's obsessed with playing attacking football, to a training pitch manager who's prepared to be both pragmatic and flexible. It's like we just, or you get a win now manager, you got a project manager. The problem is not that we change every 18 months. The problem is that we change from here to here to here to here to here.
But the thing is, Ray, man, here's the flaw in that, right? Understand that. We had Jose, Conte, Nuno, all three defensive managers back to back. So there's the continuity in that philosophy. They all had different ways of playing the defensive system and required different players. So at the end of the day, that's a flawed sort of process. We tried that with three defensive managers. It didn't work. At the end of the day,
you cannot say that Jose, Nuno, Conte are consistent in a line. Jose, win now manager, wants to go and buy players. Nuno, is that what he did at Wolves? No, he got value players in, developed them. That Nuno was an absolute reaction to Jose. Conte was then a reaction to Nuno failing, right? Conte was
defensive managers.
Well, clearly Nuno developing those players, working with value players didn't work. So I actually need to go back to that buy now manager. Conte then flipped out. So what do? We went to a relatively unknown manager. If you look at it, there's always a reaction to the last manager.
So
yeah, but it clearly shows they don't have a plan. It clearly shows the club doesn't have a plan. They don't know what to do. Every 2 years, they are the same. They cannot stick with a manager because everything goes tits up. Whenever, every 2 years, everything goes tits up because the players that we brought for these managers doesn't suit them. Okay, so your director of football thing doesn't work because if the manager can be as good as it is, but the players that he's getting from the director of football is rubbish, there's no point. There's no point of talking about director of football. The director of football can't do anything. It's the manager that put the tactics, set up the team, and make it them play. Okay, look at Poch. Did he had good, amazing signings? They were all unknown. He's the one that made them the players that they are. Harry Kane, Dembele, and everybody else. Dele Alli. He made them the players that they are right now. Poch made them, not the director of football. Okay? Just to make him this sure. Because at the end of the 5 years of the Poch, we just failed. After Champions League, where we should be kicking on and saying this team is now getting leggy and old, we didn't do anything. We just let it fail.
What Sean is saying is why a director of football works at Brighton.
What have they won? We're using a method that hasn't won any fucking trophies. I want to win trophies, so I'm going to use a method that works. You bring in your manager, you back him, and the director of football works with him and not against him. That's what the top clubs do, and that's why they go and win trophies. Stop pointing to models that have brought them relative sustainable success in the Premier League, which is something we moan about fucking Tottenham in the first place. I'm sorry. Bring me a model where they've done it that actually yields fucking trophies, and then I'll sit there. But let's not sit here and get overhyped at a Brighton model that hasn't won fucking trophies. Because if you want to be Brighton, then I don't want to hear you moan about fucking not winning trophies. Simple as. I'm fed up with it.
So
Brighton. Yeah, but what have they fucking won? Absolutely zilch.
Okay, Liverpool then. What about
Liverpool stick with club for 7 years. They won everything.
You tell me
7 years they had club.
He was there because he won. If he didn't win, he wouldn't have stayed there.
Well, he wasn't winning at the start.
He wasn't winning at the start.
They went and spent
For the last 2 years, he wasn't winning.
despite what everyone else said about the transfer fee, to back him. They went and spent 60-odd million on Alisson, despite what people said about the transfer fee, to go and back him. So if you want to point to Liverpool, talk about them backing Jurgen Klopp, because at some points he was close to being sacked because there was high-scoring games left, right, and centre. As soon as they improved the back line and improved the problem instead of sacking the manager, they went to win a Premier League, a League Cup, an FA Cup, a Champions League, and a Club World Championship. So to Sean's point, if we want to act like Liverpool, let's fucking go and do it then, because that's what yields trophies, by working with your manager and backing them. But don't come to me with a measly little Brighton or Brentford who are surviving in the Premier League. I'm sorry, I want to win trophies. Sean, that shows me your level of ambition, the fact you even brought Brighton up into this conversation as a reference model. And it actually shows it doesn't work, because he can't bring up any top club that operates like that wins.
I think I offer you then this then, right? I offer you now, from where we are today, I offer you Thomas Frank for the next 5 years, right? And he wins 2 trophies. Would you be happy with that?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
It's unrelated.
I don't get it, Ryan.
Right. Basically, what I'm saying is, yeah, right. I'm offering Dave a 5 years with Thomas Frank, yeah, right, Dave. Are you with me so far?
Yeah, okay.
Right. I'm offering you 5 years of Thomas Frank and 2 trophies. Would you be happy with that?
Yeah, I'm happy with trophies. Yeah.
Yeah, trophies. Yeah, of course. If he wins 2 trophies, he stays more longer.
Trophies
in a 5-year stint.
Well, it depends how long it takes him to get there. What I really should do is apply your logic and everybody else's logic from Ange Postecoglou and the unrealistic expectations and place them on Frank. However, I'm a realist and I'm not going to do that. I understand Frank needs help from the club and he's not just going to come in here and solve it himself. So I will give Frank time to build it. However, this year, I'll give him next season. He's got to win a Europa League. He's got to go and win a trophy. At the end of the day, Ange done it despite everyone saying he wasn't going to do it. So Frank has to go and do it. That's the expectations now.
No, do you know what, Dave? Right, I agree with you up to a point with that, what you've just said, yeah? Right? I don't agree with you where you're now calling me out saying that I gave Ange unrealistic.
You have the list there. What did he say Ange had to win?
He had to win the Champions League, the Europa League, the Premier League, the FA Cup, and you still would have sacked him.
So I know you don't agree with me calling you out saying it's unrealistic, but you said it and I am.
Well, I'm just saying that what I'm turning around and saying is, yeah, right, I agree with you up to a point, right? I will give Frank a whole season where there's no pressure on him whatsoever. No pressure. Whatever happens.
Oh, no, there'll still be pressure. He still has to win games.
Oh, no, of course. But what I'm saying is, right, there's not going to be that pressure of me expecting him to win something in his first season. No way. I am not.
Well, we say that now, but people.
Consistency, Dave.
Yes.
And I also want to progress up that table. The 2 things I want this season is consistency and moving up to that table. And when people say, "Oh, well, we're happy," that you're happy with 7, whoever was. I'm not saying anyone on this panel was saying they're happy with 17th last year, but right.
No, I was happy with the Europa League trophy, though.
No, of course. Right? Yeah. But what I'm saying is, right, we lost so much money from the league position last season. It was unbelievable. So all those fans that have said that they are happy having 17th, it was disgraceful. Levy was out of pocket, even with that Europa
contradiction,
League
though, Ryan.
We got Europa League money, we got Champions League money. So who the hell cares?
How many people say they don't care about the money? All it does is line Levy's pockets. They want trophies. So to be honest with you, I actually couldn't give a fuck about the prize money we missed out on last season. It hasn't even entered my mind because we won a Europa League and I'm in it for trophies. It's all I care about. Couldn't care what we lost out on. That's on the club to fix. In a way, he deserves that because he didn't give a proper squad to Ange Postecoglou in the first place to maintain multiple competitions. So that's a consequence of him not doing the transfer market.
I've noticed a lot of anti-Ange people have become accountants suddenly. I don't know what's happened. It seems to be a sudden thing, Dave.
I mean, I'd argue one of our best signings. The
transfers that we won.
I'd argue one of our best signings last season was Danso in January. It was exactly the player we needed. But actually, do you know what? We needed him in the summer, right? We needed that centre back. We needed the depth of centre back, the extra players in the summer. We also needed another 6 in the summer. We didn't need an 18-year-old, who was going to find his feet in the Premier League. One of my favourite quotes, and I brought it up here, is from Brian Clough. And he says, players lose you games, not tactics. There's so much crap talked about tactics by people who barely know how to win at dominoes. And it's absolutely true. If we don't get Frank the players that are going to, not just that he needs and can develop, but the players who are going to match up to all of the other clubs who also want to win games in the Premier League, then he's a dead man standing. And I really, really hope that he isn't, because I really want to see my club succeed.
But that's the thing. If you look at last season, right, all the games we lost last season, people can go and say it's tactics and everything, but it was mostly individual errors and mistakes. We lost because of mistakes. What happened? Stop for a second, Ryan. It was mistake. We all know, every time there's a mistake that happened and the goal got in, okay? It's always a mistake that happens. So we are saying the same players that was making the same mistake, but Frank would be correcting those mistakes. Mistake happens. We are young players. It's going to happen. It's going to take time. So now, if we don't back that guy with quality players that would be coming in, fixing those mistakes that we've done last season, yes, you're right. He's a dead man walking, because the same mistakes are going to happen. They're still going to happen. Because they are young, impressionable players. It doesn't change anything. Bringing young players, bringing started from Leeds again, bringing Takayel doesn't change anything. Okay? Because when the league starts, when the pressure is on, mistakes are going to happen. And we are all going to fall into the same trick.
That's not true. Because
how is that not true? How is that not true?
Every game.
Sorry, say that again?
Opened up that Bonnie Blue.
Yes, whatever. You keep saying it's open up, but every time the goal they scored was because of an individual mistake. My goodness, how many times must I be saying this?
I think there's a bit of truth to both. To be fair, look, I do think Thomas Frank will bring about a bit more defensive structure. You know, I am sort of convinced of that. I hope I'm not proven wrong, but. You know, Jerome's absolutely spot on. Rain's absolutely spot on with the quote he made. You know, it is players that lose your games. You know, Frank can't legislate for someone like, for instance, Vicario giving away the ball at his feet last season. You know, Bergvall giving away the ball in areas where we end up going and conceding off the back of players missing sitters, stuff like that. You know, and I go back to the old what the Man United team used to say. They didn't really have too many tactics. They had a base formation and a base of, if this situation occurs, we do this. But the rest of it was on the players. And because they had good players, they didn't need drilling. They didn't need all this. They didn't need all that. In effect, your team almost takes care of it yourself, take care of itself to a large degree. It becomes a very easy team to manage to a large degree. So there is correct in what Jerome's saying. This whole narrative that Thomas Frank is a coach and he's going to stop all of our players making mistakes, this, that, and the other. It's just not going to happen. Players make mistakes. They're human beings. Human beings make mistakes, some more worse than others. But at the end of the day, everyone makes mistakes. That's something you can't coach out of people, I'm afraid. You know, this whole idea of him being a coach, yes, when he had 7 days a week between every game at Brentford, he can get on the training pitch and you can develop them. When he's traveling to the back arse of Europe on a fucking Wednesday evening, you think he's going to have time to sit down and develop Mikey Moore, develop Donnelly, develop this, develop that? It's not going to happen. There's a lot less time on the training pitch, and that has to be legislated and accounted for, which means Thomas Frank can't exactly copy and replicate what he's done at Brentford. There has to be a hybrid. Yes, he can develop some players, but I'd argue some of the players we've got aren't going to naturally develop because we've bought well. The likes of Destiny Udogie and that, I think naturally they're just going to develop regardless who the manager is. But there also has to be a recognition to help Frank get points on the board. You also have to give him ready-to-go players. You can't just go, he's a coach, bring him in, let's bring in players that he can develop, because I can tell you now, you're going to get a rude awakening and some shock when the games start hitting quick and fast and we're being outclassed or we're making stupid mistakes or players don't know exactly the right positioning and shit like that. You know, we're gonna absolutely pay the price for it. So there has to be recognition that Frank does need transfers. But guys, we are going to wrap it up here because I'm not going to lie, I've got my dinner ready and I'm absolutely starving. I was in the gym today, I hadn't eaten, so I am going to have my dinner and maybe watch an episode of Love Island. Not quite so sure yet. So we are going to wrap it up. So we'll go around the panel, give everyone one last say and whatever it is they want to say, and we're going to wrap it up for the evening because my stomach is rumbling.
Yeah, I'll go first. Look, the only thing I'm going to say is when Dave told all of you at the start, when look at how things are going to go, we should be kicking on and we are not. People came and told him, you are being a bit of a dickhead. Well, look who's the dickhead now. Because I don't see anything change. I don't see anything happening. So don't ever come at Dave and calling him a dickhead. Yeah, no, that's right. It has to be said. Don't call him a dickhead. Don't call him to be negative when he has all the reasons to be negative and say he is very doubtful of what the club is doing. So don't come here and call him a dickhead because he was right. So that's what I have to say today.
Do you know what, Drum? Appreciate that, my man. It's nice sometimes when you get backed for and you don't always have to do it yourself. So I appreciate that, Drum. Big yourself up, my man. I really appreciate it. And really appreciate your contribution today as well, by the way. Keep coming on these fan shows and keep having your say, Jerome. Rain, we'll let you have one of your last final words as well, buddy.
I'm really hoping that the next time we speak, we're talking about players through the door, both in and out. I think a big problem last season was not just it was not just mistakes at the back. I think we desperately need better quality up top, and that's why I think so many of us are desperate to see a player like Kudus come through the door, to see a better striker come through the door, to give Frank the ammunition he needs to take this team, to do what he said, to take the work that Ange had done and bring this team and make it a lot better. Hoping that the next time we speak, we're speaking about transfers.
Seriously.
I really do also, because I am bored and losing my mind, honestly.
Well, I'm starting next week will be 2 days away from, or a few days away from the first preseason game, so at least we'll be closer to that. But, it'd be nice to have both transfers and that as well.
True. Big up, Rain. Again, really appreciate your time and really enjoy your contributions on these fan shows, my man. So keep coming back and sharing your opinions. The more, the merrier. And by the way, if there's anyone else out there in future that wants to get on and get your saying stuff, you know how to do it. So make sure you do. Rhino, any last words, buddy?
Just two things I want to just say. Look, even though me and Dave don't always see eye to eye anymore like we used to, Dave is a good guy. Like, just he's not anything. Even though me and Dave don't agree with much, and me and Jack, we don't really agree on much anymore. But please do not go around trying to attack Dave by calling him names or anyone else names, because it's just our opinions at the end of the day. So please do not attack anyone on this panel or anybody ever in life, because life's too short. It's just a football opinion. There's no point in attacking people. And secondly, please hit the subscribe on my channel, Dave's channel, Mia's channel. Because we should all support each other. I know we haven't got much at the moment on our channel on Playful Spurs, but that's because there's nothing been going on, and it's only been nearly 7 days since we've done it. But look, at the end of the day, guys, just show support to Mia, because even though me and Mia, we do not agree on hardly anything, I still love Mia. And Mia probably will in a minute disagree with me, and she'll probably say she hates my guts and she doesn't want nothing to do with me. No, I'm joking, Mia. But just show love to my channel, well, it's not just my channel, it's Paul's channel as well, Tamia's channel and Dave's channel, because these lads, they try their hardest to put on all the work that they can, even through these terrible times where there's nothing going on, and just show us all some love. Otherwise,
you're absolutely spot on, Rhino. Look, I've always maintained this, regardless of what side of the fence you fall on. Let's show love to each other. All Spurs fans all go through the same pain at some point or another. Big up, Rhino. Really appreciate your contribution today as well, my man. And we'll see you again very, very soon. Rhino's channel is here, guys. Make sure you get across and smash that subscribe button. Him and Paul Connor are doing a channel together. And then we'll go on to Mia. Any last things you want to say? And then here's your channel link as well. Jack's very kind to put it in there.
Thanks, Jacko. The two things I would say is that we need to give Frank time, and the biggest thing is going to be, I think the most expectation on him is that everybody expects him to coach all these players into being these fantastic players, and we can't keep letting there be holes in the bucket and just keep chucking the bucket away. We need to fix these holes at some bloody point, and giving him players that obviously allow him and help him to do that. And secondly, yeah, I agree with what Ryan said and what Jerome said about, listen, we know, right? We just heard about what happened to Jota, right? That devastated me, man. Watching what happened just shows you life's too short. It's footballing opinions, man. Be kind to each other.
Yeah.
It costs you nothing to be kind to somebody. Just because you've got a difference of opinion doesn't mean anything. I have different opinions with lots of people, but just be nice to one another, man, because you never know, innit? You never know what someone's going through. You don't know what might happen, what tomorrow's going to bring you. So just be a nice person. You don't need to call people names because they've got a difference of opinion. Dave and Jack have always been so fantastic and supportive of me, man. I couldn't have asked for two better people to kick me into the YouTube space, because they were just always so supportive and lovely, always wanted to help me, do whatever to help me out. And so you've got to give them so much respect for that, man. And even if you disagree with Dave, and me and Dave always have our little Barneys, but it don't matter because I love Dave to bits. I always say that to you, innit, Dave? Because me and you, we chat and that, and we talk about loads of other stuff, like life is bigger than football. That's the one thing I will say. Life is bigger than football, guys.
No, 100%. Absolutely spot on. You know, with the Diego Jota thing, you know, like I said to anybody, if you do have any riffs or anything with family, friends and shit, dead it now and just move forward, you know, and forgive them and move forward, because life can be short. You know, you can hold on to something for too long, and sometimes you can never fix it. So make sure you take that sort of shock, and you apply it to your life moving forward. But guys, please get over and check out Mia's channel over there as well. Me and Mia do disagree on a lot. But at the end of the day, we're a perfect example. You can disagree and be good friends at the same time as well, and still talk about other stuff outside of football, you know, find common ground and stuff like that. So big up Mia, and people get across and check out our channel. But just quickly before we end off, I want to shout out DJ AK. Gave me a lovely tip there on the weekend on Friday. Was it Friday or Saturday? For a horse at the horse racing he was at. And it robbed home. So big up DJ AK, you absolute legend, my man. And then Phil Coy says, Dave, on the gym trail. Yes, I am at the minute. How long I can stay motivated for, we will wait and see. But I feel like being on here, giving daily, progresses or whatever, sort of helped me keep going. So, look, could be a case. It could dead it in the summer and go back to eating kebabs again. So I don't know, but I seem a bit motivated at the time. So let's see how it keeps going. # keep Dave motivated. But guys, we're going to leave it there. Sorry we didn't have any good news to bring you guys. Hopefully the rest of this week picks up with some speed and some urgency. We'll see you back here tomorrow evening, hopefully, with Sam, Johnny, and Sean, if there's things to talk about. Jesus Christ, I need my food. But guys, that's it from us. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Smash that like, smash that subscribe button. A massive thank you to all you guys at home for tuning in. All the people have gone the extra mile today. Rhino, Artist T, Alan, Leslie, Drew, Zilla, Sonan as well. Really appreciate support. And all you guys on the panel here as guests. See you back here tomorrow, as always. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Irish train. Choo choo.
Oh, you're on it now. Too late. It's that.